All right, and welcome into the 2016 season, the debut edition of the Daily Reflector's Fearless Football Forecast. I'm your host, as it were, seeing as how I'm...
No, you're the host.
The lead guy on this deal.
You're the man.
I am Daily Reflector high school sports beat writer Jordan Anders, and to my right is my esteemed colleague on most days, Tony Castleberry.
Yes, that is me.
It is good to be here with you, Tony.
Yeah, ready for another season.
And
We've got week one in the books, which is nice. As we were talking before we went on air here, it's nice to have something to go on instead of just going into week one blind.
Right.
So we actually have some stats and some numbers that we can throw at people, and they're concrete. They're not false.
We have stuff to actually back up the thoughts that we're going to have.
Exactly.
Here. So we'll start off. We're going to go through each of the games coming up for week two of the 2016 season. We'll start with the only all Pitt County matchup that's going on this weekend, and that is Aiden Grifton at D.H. Conley. Kind of opposite sides here, Tony. Coming off of Aiden Grifton coming off of a pretty lopsided loss at West Craven, whereas D.H. Conley went on the road and got a big win at Southeast Raleigh.
Right.
Not quite as dramatic as last year's win was.
Or high scoring.
Had to score 100 points, it seemed like, to win, but the Vikings and the Chargers will go head to head this week, and the biggest thing that stands out to me is kind of Aiden Grifton only putting up 115 yards of offense in that like I said, a 44-8 loss at West Craven, and they've got a new quarterback. It's always tough kind of getting the offense rolling there early in the season, but especially against a Conley team, this team is the Aiden Grifton's really going to have to come out and show that they can move the ball and produce some yards and some points, especially going against Holton Ahlers and the Vikings.
True, and I was shocked not by Aiden Grifton losing at West Craven. I was shocked by. And not even really shocked by the fact they gave up 44 points. The fact that they only scored 8 was what really kind of stood out to me more than anything. That's a bit of a concern, even this early in the year. You would expect your offense, with the way the rules are now, for your offense to do a little bit more than that. Maybe West Craven's got a great defense. Neither one of us got to see any plays in that game, but I certainly thought, and I think you would agree, that Aiden Grifton would have been a little bit better offensively. That's cause for concern going to a really good D.H. Conley team, as you mentioned.
Right, and a Conley team that scored 35 against Southeast Raleigh. Holton Ahlers throws for 3 touchdowns, runs for another. It seems like even after week one, it's going to be more of the same from how dominant he was from a statistical
Hasn't
standpoint.
missed a beat. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think Aiden Grifton, I think they go in there and they're probably going to be a little frustrated coming off of that loss and maybe put up a better fight, but I don't see any way they go in there and knock off Conley.
No, I think Conley's going to win pretty handily. Last year's game was close between these two teams. I think that's probably about the best that Aiden Grifton can hope for, is trying to keep it close.
Exactly.
And the next game, Farmville Central had a game postponed at Kinston. Speaking of teams that you thought probably didn't have much of a chance, I don't know if anybody gave them much of a chance at Kinston. They go down there and win handily. Kind of pulled away in a game that was postponed from Friday to Monday. Really impressed with Scott Gardner's crew. That's a huge road win to start the year. And, your story really, I thought, summed it up well. The fact that Gardner was talking about doing these different things offensively. When it actually came time to line up, they put their big uglies up front against the other team's defensive front and just ran it right down their throat, and it worked.
It did.
More than that, though, I thought the defense was outstanding. Getting all those turnovers, having those turnovers lead to points was huge for Farmville Central. And that's a great way for them to start the year. Obviously, they're feeling good, and I think they'll feel really good about going on the road again against North Lenoir, because they've proven they can win against a really good Kinston team. I think they'll move to 2-0 with a win over North Lenoir.
Without a doubt, North Lenoir. Farmville Central beat them 60-6 last year, and they were, and that was coming off of a season opening loss against Kinston. The momentum that they're going to have off of the win Monday night is definitely going to carry them to 2-0. Kinston comes off of that game a short week, just like Farmville Central, and they go to Bethel to North Pitt to start their season this weekend. And so the big question there is going to be on the North Pitt side. You've got Brent Wooten, who is going into his first year, his first game as the head coach there.
Yeah.
And, Kinston coming in off of the season, on reputation of the season that they had last year, it looked like it was going to be a pretty tall task, and it still might be. But now you have, if you're a North Pitt fan, you at least have the questions of, well, if they look that bad Monday night against Farmville Central, maybe that gives North Pitt a little extra confidence going into this weekend.
For sure. I feel like North Pitt's got nothing to lose at this point. There's a lot of excitement surrounding that program with a new coach, new regime. Seems like there are a lot more players even that turned out to play football for North Pitt this year, which is a good sign. Nothing but excitement there, I would imagine. And you're right, the fact that they saw that a Pitt County rival in Farmville Central went down there and pretty much hammered Kinston should give them confidence. Obviously, still a lot to prove for Wooten. I think he is probably as excited as anybody about getting this thing off and running. But as far as picking a winner there, it's really tough. Last year's results, I don't know how much you can take those into account, but Kinston won this game 53-0 last year. I don't know that much has changed for either one of these programs from then until now. Tall task for North Pitt, an angry Kinston team. I think Kinston's probably going to win that game. I wouldn't be shocked if North Pitt keeps it close until the very end.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's far more competitive than last year with the kind of just the atmosphere and the excitement of the North Pitt program right now. But But like you said, Kinston, they're not. They're different from the team last year, but they're not that different.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be pretty angry off of a subpar showing Monday night.
Turnovers will be key in that one, as they were in the Farmville Central game. If Kinston limits turnovers, I think they win easily. But hey, if North Pitt can force a few and get some points off of it, that's anybody's ball game.
Absolutely. So we go from there to the other Pitt County team that did not play week one, and that is J.H. Rose. Kind of two teams in North Pitt and Rose that didn't play week one on far different sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Whereas Rose is coming in, all of the momentum and all of the kind of the hype around having made it to the state finals last year and now kind of getting to see what they can do after that. They're going against a Laney team that they came out and it proved to be an omen for the rest of the season that they got into a shootout with and wound up having to score 56 points to win. And the question is going to be whether or not they can do that again, and the fact that all the skill players are still there that they needed that they had last year and will need this year. But Dave Wojtecki's biggest question through the preseason was the offensive line and whether or not they were going to be able to block for those guys. So this will be their first test, and I think wouldn't be surprised to see some speed bumps there in the road a little bit and maybe stumble a little bit. But I don't think it'll be enough to derail the skill players that they have on that offense, and I think they get a win.
Yeah, losing Cornell Powell obviously is a guy who you can't replace. They're going to need several players to kind of make up for what you lose with an all-world talent like that kid was. But from reading your preview and kind of gauging that team a little bit, I think Coach Wojtecki is pretty happy about the group of guys that are going to try. Not one guy trying to replace him, a group of players doing that. And they still have athletes. Man, I don't think there's any question about that. You look at that Rose team, and they're scary. Putting up 50 points is something that they're used to by now. Not just this most recent season, but going back several seasons under Coach Wojtecki. These games always seem to be shootouts. Every single time. I've covered a few of these, and it's rare that both teams don't eclipse 40 points. I would imagine it's probably going to be more of the same. Whoever can get one or two defensive stops here and there, and it's probably going to be another like 52-45 game, something like that. I think Rose opens with a win, particularly being at home. There'll be a good home crowd there for them.
Definitely agreed.
West Craven at South Central is our final game of the week, and West Craven proved a lot in week one. Even though Aiden Grifton is not in the same classification, Aiden Grifton is a tough team no matter what level they're playing.
No doubt.
And for them to put up 44 points really opened my eyes. I wasn't sure what West Craven was going to have, but man, that was an impressive showing. But South Central also, after last year, if I remember correctly, the Green Central game was a blowout, right? They got hammered. They only lose by 9 there on Friday, in one of the few Friday games that we got in. So South Central probably feeling pretty good about itself too after that, showing a few kinks to work out here and there. It seemed like they were 1 or 2 plays away from maybe even pulling off a much-needed victory for Andy too and his crew. I think that West Craven's probably going to keep it going, though. It's hard to pick against them after putting up that many points against a pretty good Aiden Grifton team. South Central being at home is going to help a little bit, but they still have some strides to make before I can pick them.
Without a doubt. And one of the funny things in putting some notes together for this show was South Central scored 24 points in week 1. It took them until week 4 last year to reach 24 points cumulatively. So that's a far better start for Andy 2 and the Falcons.
Yeah.
Definitely, they were able to move the ball and find some offense, which was just that simply was the thing that they were missing last year.
It was.
And so, not able to pull out the win, but definitely an improved showing after the way they started last year. And I think that probably carries over a little bit this year, this week into this matchup with West Craven. But I'm with you. After the performance that Wes Craven put up against Aiden Grifton, they scored on offense, defense, and special teams.
Yep.
That is a huge starting point for the season and a lot of momentum. So I think they go in there and run South Central's record to 0-2. But I think the Falcons are competitive more in this matchup than last year, as opposed to like they were last week against Green Central.
There are some positive signs for South Central. Last year, you couldn't say that.
No,
not at least not throughout the season. At least early on, there are some positive signs there. So a lot of football left. Obviously, I think they'll get that thing turned around sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. So I believe you and I picked all the
all
we
did.
picks for the second.
We didn't want to be controversial at all in the first one.
We're just getting the wheels moving.
And any coach that wants to use this play that I drew up, feel free.
That is a Castleberry special.
It will work every time. I promise.
He moonlights as an offensive coordinator.
I do. Keep it on the hush.
So that is those are our picks for this weekend, for this Friday's games. You can find all the results of those games and write-ups in Saturday's edition of the Daily Reflector and at reflector.com. You can follow me. I'm not sure where I'll be. I'll probably be
at a football game.
I will be at a football game.
Probably.
The question is which one on Friday night. But you can follow me on Twitter at ReflectorJordan for updates there. You can follow him at
T Castleberry GDR.
That's it.
It's my professional account. I won't give the personal one.
No, it might get him in trouble.
Yeah.
So that's it for this week, and we hope you guys will check back in from now on we'll have one of these each and every week. And thanks for tuning in.